Hi everyone, it's Saul, and welcome back to another LEGO review. Today we're looking at set 72046, the Game Boy. This set is technically the latest offering in LEGO's Super Mario range, and depicts Nintendo's iconic handheld with uncompromising attention to detail. But before we get into the set itself, let's take a look at the console that inspired it. The Game Boy is a handheld console developed by Nintendo which first debuted in Japan on the 21st of April 1989. The console would subsequently be released in North America in July 1989 and Europe in September 1990. It wasn't the first handheld on the market, nor the first produced by Nintendo, but it quickly made its mark on the industry. The initial batch of 300,000 units produced for the Japanese market sold out in a mere 2 weeks, and North American sales exceeded 1 million within a similar timeframe. Now, I must confess, as a 99 kid, the original Game Boy was a little before my time. My aunt and uncle had one, and I distinctly remember playing Oddworld Adventures on it, a terrible remake of the PS1's Abe's Odyssey, and, of course, Tetris. Though I've never owned an original Game Boy myself, I did have both the Game Boy Advance in clear grey and the Game Boy Advance SP in cobalt blue, and one of the games I remember most vividly was Rayman, along with a Barnyard tie-in game which I was absolutely obsessed with. Of course, neither of these were available for the original Game Boy, so let's get back to it, shall we? The LEGO Game Boy was released on the 4th of October 2025, and if you want to get your hands on one, it'll set you back by $54.99, which I think is incredibly reasonable. For a licensed Nintendo branded set, I was expecting the price to be closer to £70 or £80. For that price, you also get an exceptional amount of detail, with no less than 16 printed elements, 19 if you count the lenticular screens, more on those in a minute, and just 2 stickers. Those being for the 2 game cartridges, The Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening, and Super Mario Land. Not all the detail comes from the printed elements, mind you. There's also some very clever snot techniques coming together to make the dimensions of the set as accurate as possible with a completely studless finish, with the exception of the D-pad. Again, I don't own an original Game Boy, but here are some photos of it side by side with the LEGO set so you can see just how close they managed to get this thing. Another big selling point of this set is interactivity. It doesn't just look like a Game Boy, when you pick it up, it feels like you're holding a Game Boy. Every single button and dial is interactive. The A and B buttons, start and select, the D-pad, even the volume and contrast dials, and the power switch. Once again, there's some clever techniques at play here, especially the D-pad, which has 4 small rubber pads underneath allowing you to press it down in each direction. And it's not just the buttons that are interactive. The cartridges, which are highly accurate in and of themselves, can be swapped out as desired, and they even make that distinctive click when locked into place. The lenticular screen can also be swapped out, and there are 3 options to choose from. The iconic Nintendo boot-up screen, and a scene from each of the 2 games included with the set. The lenticular effect is really cool. I remember having a few Doctor Who annuals with lenticular covers when I was a kid, and the idea of effectively an animated texture on a piece of plastic with no moving parts still continues to amaze me. Before I give my final thoughts on the set, it's worth pointing out that, of course, some very clever people have already converted this into an actual working Game Boy. As far as I know, the first person to share their creation publicly was Natalie the Nerd, who is currently working on putting together a conversion kit that you can buy if you want to turn your own LEGO set into the real thing. This is absolutely incredible, and I think it's a testament again to the accuracy of the set that this conversion is even possible without being too intrusive to the existing build. Will I be buying one of these conversion kits and turning my own set into a real Game Boy, I hear you ask? Let's just say I'm thinking about it. I hear Oddworld Adventures calling to me. So that's the LEGO Game Boy, a fantastically accurate set which was surprisingly fun to build. You might think that building a featureless grey brick out of LEGO would be quite boring, but if that were true, LEGO Star Wars wouldn't have lasted very long now, would it? What makes it so engaging is the detail that's gone into the design. The myriad of snot techniques that intricately mesh together a seemingly random assortment of bricks into a familiar sight. I always compare LEGO building to doing a jigsaw, which I also love, by the way. Seeing the finished product is one thing, but seeing it come together, making it come together, is the real joy. One more thing I want to mention about the set before we finish is the cartridges. As mentioned earlier, the set contains 2 of these, which use the only 2 stickers in the set. I'm not the biggest fan of stickers in LEGO sets, but this was definitely a perfect use case for them, as the real Game Boy's cartridges did, of course, have stickers on them. It also got me thinking though. Given that each of these cartridges is made up of only 24 fairly common pieces, you could quite easily get some custom stickers printed and whip up a few more of these. So if you want to represent some of your favourite games or even recreate your entire childhood collection in LEGO form, what's stopping you? On that note, that's all we've got time for today, so thank you very much for joining. I do of course highly recommend the LEGO Game Boy. They're selling out pretty quickly at the moment, so make sure you get one before the scalpers do, and with that, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.